Hello and welcome. Before we begin tonight's journey, I'd like you to take a slow breath in and then gently let it out. This is your time to unwind, to let go of the weight of the day, and to simply listen. If you find these kinds of deep, relaxing explorations comforting, I warmly invite you to subscribe to this channel. By doing so, you'll always have a peaceful space to return to, a place where big questions meet calm reflection. Now, as you're listening, take a moment to notice where you are. Are you lying down in bed, wrapped in your blankets, ready to drift into sleep? Or maybe you're stretched out on the couch, headphones in, lights dimmed, letting the words carry you. Perhaps you're somewhere else entirely, waiting, or simply taking a moment of quiet in your own world. Wherever you are safe. You are allowed to rest. And how do you feel right now? Are you tired, your body heavy with the pull of sleep? Or are you restless, your mind still busy with thoughts from the day? Maybe you're curious, open, and just looking for something soothing and thought-provoking to fall asleep to. No matter what you are feeling, you are in the right place. Tonight, we'll take a gentle journey into one of humanity's oldest and most fascinating dreams: immortality. The question of what it would mean if we, as human beings, could live forever. For thousands of years, humans have wondered about life without an end, from ancient myths of gods and heroes to modern science searching for the secrets of aging. And now, together, we'll drift into this timeless question, exploring it from many sides, not in a rush, but slowly, softly, as you sink deeper into rest. So, close your eyes if you haven't already. Let the sound of these words guide you. And let's begin. For as long as humans have existed, we have carried with us the awareness of death. This knowledge is both a gift and a burden. Unlike animals who live moment to moment, humans are deeply aware that life has an end. This awareness has shaped our cultures, our religions, our stories, and even our sciences. And at the heart of this awareness is one recurring dream, the possibility of immortality. From the earliest civilizations, people looked up at the night sky and wondered about eternity. The stars seemed endless, the cycles of the moon eternal, and the rising of the sun something that could never fail. Against this backdrop of permanence, human life felt painfully short. People were born, they lived, and they died, but the universe seemed to go on forever. And so, across time, humans began to ask, what if we could join that eternity? What if we could live forever? In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the oldest surviving works of literature, the Epic of Gilgamesh, tells the story of a king searching for eternal life. Gilgamesh, grieving the loss of his closest friend, could not accept that death was inevitable. He wandered the earth in search of immortality, asking the gods, seeking magical secrets, and hoping to discover some hidden way to escape death. His journey ends with the realization that mortality is part of the human condition. And yet, the story itself shows us how deeply this longing for immortality runs within us. The Egyptians, too, dreamed of eternal life. Their pyramids, towering monuments of stone, were built as gateways to immortality. Pharaohs were buried with treasures, food, and even servants, all in the belief that life would continue beyond death. The elaborate rituals of mummification were attempts to preserve the body, not just for memory, but for a continued existence in another realm. To them, immortality was not just a dream, it was a plan. In Greek mythology, immortality appears again and again. The gods of Olympus were eternal, living lives of endless drama and adventure, while mortals could only envy them. Some myths tell of mortals granted immortality, but often with a twist. The goddess Eos, for example, asked Zeus to make her mortal lover, Tithonus, immortal. Her wish was granted, but she forgot to ask for eternal youth. As centuries passed, Tithonus grew older and older, his body withering, but his life never ending. Eventually, his immortality became a curse, leaving him trapped in endless decay. These stories reveal not only the human longing for eternal life, but also the fear of what such a life might actually mean. In Asia, we find other visions of immortality. Ancient Chinese alchemists searched for the elixir of life, a potion that could grant endless existence. Taoist traditions spoke of sages who had achieved immortality through meditation, discipline, and harmony with the universe. In India, Hindu and Buddhist texts also reflect on immortality, though often in a different way, not the endless continuation of the body, but the timeless existence of the soul, free from the cycle of rebirth. All of these stories, scattered across continents and cultures, show us something profound. The desire to live forever is not limited to one people, one place, or one time. It is a universal dream. Humans everywhere, no matter their background, have looked at their short lives and wondered, could there be more? Could there be a way to escape the end? And yet, this dream is never simple. With every hope of immortality comes a shadow, the fear that it might not bring the happiness we imagine. Would endless life be a blessing, or would it become a burden? Would it free us, or would it trap us? These questions have echoed across centuries, and even now, in the modern world, we are still asking them. As you listen to these stories, let yourself picture them slowly. Imagine the Great Pyramids under a blazing desert sun, the epic hero Gilgamesh wandering dusty roads in search of secrets, the gods of Greece laughing in their eternal lives, and the sages of China mixing strange elixirs by candlelight. These are not just old tales, they are reflections of the same wonder that we feel tonight. They are humanity's first attempts to answer the question, what if we could live forever? And so, as we begin our journey through this vast subject, we start with history, with the roots of our dream. Because to understand our modern hopes of immortality, we must first look back. We must see how humans before us tried to make peace with death and how they reached for something beyond it. Take a slow breath here. Imagine yourself walking among ancient ruins, touching stones carved thousands of years ago. Imagine the voices of people long gone, whispering their dreams into the air. You are not alone in your curiosity. You are part of a chain stretching back to the dawn of humanity, a chain of dreamers, thinkers, and seekers, all united by the same longing, the longing for eternity. As we continue our journey, let us drift further into the ways humanity has imagined immortality beyond myths and legends. Religion and philosophy have long provided frameworks for understanding life and death, shaping how countless generations have thought about the possibility of living forever in the ancient world. Egyptians believed that immortality was achievable through ritual, devotion, and preparation. The process of mummification was more than preservation. It was a bridge, carefully constructed, allowing the spirit to continue its journey in the afterlife. Tombs filled with treasures, tools, and food were not symbols of vanity, but practical necessities for eternal life. The belief was profound. The body, mind, and spirit could continue together, transcending the physical limits of mortal existence. Meanwhile, in Mesopotamia, the story of Gilgamesh revealed a different dimension. His search was not merely about escaping death, but about understanding the nature of life itself. Gilgamesh confronted mortality with courage, and in doing so, he illuminated a universal truth. Immortality is not merely a gift of endless days, but a mirror reflecting the finite nature of our existence. Even when immortality was unreachable, the striving for it inspired art, literature, and moral reflection. Greek philosophy introduced an introspective angle. Philosophers such as Plato pondered the soul's eternal nature. In his dialogues, he argued that while the body perishes, the soul is unbound, moving through the realms of forms and ideas. Socrates, in his final moments, spoke of death not as an end, but as a transition, an opportunity for the soul to reach a higher plane. For these thinkers, immortality was less about physical survival and more about the enduring essence of consciousness and virtue. In Eastern philosophies, a similar emphasis on the soul and inner life appears. Taoist sages practiced meditation, breathing techniques, and alchemical experiments to harmonize body and spirit. They sought not only longevity, but also a profound understanding of life's rhythms. Hoping to merge with the Tao, the natural eternal flow of the universe. Buddhist teachings, on the other hand, emphasized release from the cycle of rebirth. Immortality in this context was liberation from suffering, an eternal peace rather than endless physical life. Hindu texts, too, explored moksha, the liberation of the soul, highlighting that eternal life might reside not in the body, but in consciousness itself, even during the Middle Ages. European alchemists and mystics pursued secret formulas and elixirs, blending spiritual devotion with early chemical experimentation. The Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance said to grant eternal life, represented more than a material quest. It symbolized humanity's relentless desire to transcend mortality, to bend nature's laws, and to reach for the infinite. Throughout history, immortality has been portrayed as a double-edged sword. Tales of eternal life often contain cautionary lessons. Gilgamesh's quest ended with acceptance. Tithonus became an eternal, withered figure. And many alchemical texts warned that the price of immortality could outweigh its benefits. These stories gently remind us that while the dream of living forever is powerful, it comes with profound responsibility and reflection. Now, as you listen, imagine yourself moving through time. Picture the ancient Egyptian priests chanting softly in the dim light of stone temples. Imagine Gilgamesh wandering distant hills, the wind carrying both grief and hope. Visualize Greek philosophers walking under olive trees, debating the nature of the soul. Feel the serene energy of Taoist sages sitting in silent meditation, harmonizing breath with the universe. And hear the quiet whispers of alchemists in medieval labs searching for the elusive key to eternity. Notice the continuity of these dreams. Across cultures and centuries, humans have asked the same question. How can we endure? How can life be prolonged beyond the fragile limits of the body? These questions are as alive now as they were thousands of years ago. Take a slow breath. Let the thought of these seekers, dreamers, and philosophers drift around you. Their curiosity, their longing, their hope, it is all part of the collective human imagination. And as we move forward, we begin to see how these early ideas laid the groundwork for our modern understanding of immortality, from scientific endeavors to philosophical reflection, and ultimately to the dreams that we explore in our own time. Asterisk as we move into the present day. The dream of immortality has shifted from myth and philosophy into the tangible realm of science. Technology and biology now offer possibilities that ancient civilizations could only imagine. Yet, the desire remains fundamentally the same. Humans still long to extend life, to linger in existence, and to explore what it would mean to escape the inevitability of death. Modern medicine has made astonishing strides. Vaccines, antibiotics, organ transplants, and advanced surgical techniques have dramatically increased human life expectancy. Diseases that once claimed millions are now treatable, and age-related decline is being studied with precision. Researchers have identified key biological mechanisms of aging, from cellular senescence to telomere shortening. These discoveries give hope that human life could one day be extended far beyond today's natural limits, parallel to these scientific advances. The cultural imagination continues to explore immortality. Science fiction has long speculated on the possibilities of eternal life, from androids and AI companions to cryonics and futuristic civilizations. Stories in literature, film, and art echo the ancient myths. but they are grounded in a contemporary understanding of biology, technology, and human psychology. These narratives invite us to ponder not only how life might be extended, but also what it would mean to live without end. The ethical considerations of immortality have never been more pressing. If humans could live forever, what would it mean? For society, for the planet, for love, ambition, and creativity. Would endless life allow us to achieve our dreams, or would it remove the urgency and meaning that mortality gives to every moment? Philosophers and scientists alike grapple with these questions, recognizing that immortality is as much a philosophical challenge as it is a scientific one. Consider the ways in which immortality is being pursued today. Genetic engineering. 4. Example, aims to repair the DNA damage that accumulates over time. Nanotechnology promises to rejuvenate cells at a molecular level. Cryonics offers the possibility of preserving the body until future technology can revive it. And emerging research into mind uploading, transferring consciousness into digital form, suggests that immortality might one day extend beyond the body entirely. Each of these approaches represents a different path toward the same ancient dream. Yet each carries profound uncertainties and risks. The pursuit of eternal life also reflects deeper human desires, the wish to witness history unfold, to master our own destinies, and to preserve relationships and experiences indefinitely. Immortality, in this sense, is not simply about avoiding death. It is about embracing the fullness of existence, exploring the mysteries of the universe, and seeking continuity in a world defined by men from aid. As you listen, imagine the modern laboratories where researchers work tirelessly, the quiet hum of machines, the glow of computer screens analyzing DNA sequences. Picture scientists in contemplation, blending creativity with rigorous logic, driven by curiosity and hope. Visualize the futuristic cities depicted in stories, where humans may one day live far longer than any of their ancestors, navigating new challenges and opportunities. And sense the continuity with the dreamers of the past, the ancient philosophers, mystics, and alchemists whose curiosity and imagination still resonate in every experiment and every story told today. Take another deep breath. Let your mind drift through centuries, from the deserts of Egypt to the libraries of Athens, from the meditative halls of Taoist sages to modern research facilities. The dream of immortality is timeless, yet it is also deeply personal. Tonight, as you listen, consider your own place in this vast continuum. Your curiosity, your wonder, your imagination, they connect you to the endless chain of humans who have pondered, longed for, and reached toward life beyond limits. And now, as you settle deeper into relaxation, let the thought of humanity's search for immortality ease you into contemplation. Let it be both inspiring and comforting, a gentle reminder that the desire to live fully, to explore endlessly, is woven into the very fabric of what it means to be human. As we move deeper into our journey, we now turn our attention from myths, philosophy, and human dreams to the physical reality of life itself. Immortality, as wondrous as it may seem in story and imagination, must confront the biological structures that define every living being. Our bodies are intricate systems, delicate yet resilient, composed of trillions of cells working in harmony. Each cell is a tiny factory, processing energy, repairing damage, and maintaining the rhythm of life. Yet even these incredible machines are not immune to time. One of the most fundamental processes of aging occurs at the cellular level. Cells divide, grow, and repair themselves, but each division leaves a mark. The shortening of telomeres, protective caps at the ends of chromosomes. Telomeres function like the plastic tips at the end of shoelaces, preventing DNA strands from unraveling. Over time, as telomeres shorten with each cell division, the ability of cells to regenerate diminishes. Eventually, the cells enter a state called senescence, a kind of biological retirement where they no longer divide or function optimally. This gradual decline contributes to the visible and invisible signs of aging: wrinkles, reduced organ function, and diminished vitality. Beyond telomeres, our bodies face countless other challenges. Proteins misfold, enzymes lose efficiency, and oxidative stress slowly damages cellular structures. Our immune system, once robust in youth, weakens over time, leaving the body more vulnerable to disease. Organs, though remarkable in their complexity, have limits. Even the brain, with its vast networks of neurons, experiences gradual decay, affecting memory, cognition, and emotional resilience. Each of these processes reminds us that life, while beautiful, is intrinsically fragile. Yet scientists have discovered mechanisms that slow, repair, or even temporarily reverse some aspects of aging. Caloric restriction, for example, has been shown in multiple species to extend lifespan, likely by reducing metabolic stress and enhancing cellular repair mechanisms. Research into sirtuins, a class of proteins involved in cellular health, offers insights into how energy metabolism and gene regulation influence longevity. Telomeres, an enzyme capable of lengthening telomeres, has been studied extensively, showing potential in delaying cellular senescence. But even with these advances, the complexity of life presents enormous challenges. Repairing one system often affects others, creating a delicate balance that must be maintained. The human brain, perhaps our most remarkable organ, also plays a role in how we perceive time and aging. Cognitive function, emotional resilience, and even the subjective experience of life's length are intertwined with our biology. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to adapt, learn, and rewire itself, but it too faces limits. As we age, synaptic connections can weaken, and the production of essential neurotransmitters may decline. These changes influence not only how we think, but also how we experience the passage of time, subtly altering our perception of life itself. Immortality, then, is not simply a matter of desire or willpower. It is a confrontation with the fundamental laws of biology, chemistry, and physics. Every heartbeat, every breath, every cellular repair mechanism is bound by the limitations of nature. And yet, within these boundaries lies extraordinary potential. Researchers around the world are exploring ways to extend health span, the period of life spent in good health, and to mitigate the damage that leads to disease and decline. These efforts represent a continuation of the ancient human quest to live longer, to understand the machinery of life, and to explore what might be possible if we could push the limits of biology. As you listen, imagine the microscopic world inside your own body. Picture each cell tirelessly performing its work, the intricate dance of molecules repairing damage, proteins folding, and enzymes catalyzing reactions. Imagine the telomeres at the ends of chromosomes gradually shortening, yet resilient, like tiny hourglasses measuring the passage of time. Sense the rhythm of life itself, the continuous flow of energy, the balance of forces, the harmony that allows you to exist in this moment, and consider the human imagination that arose alongside these biological realities. Scientists, doctors, and researchers are the dreamers of our time, peering into microscopes, analyzing DNA, and experimenting with ways to extend the human lifespan. Their curiosity mirrors the ancient myths, the philosophical reflections, and the religious rituals that sought to overcome mortality. The methods have changed, but the desire remains the same. Take a slow, gentle breath. Allow yourself to feel both the fragility and resilience of life. The awareness of limits does not diminish wonder. Rather, it deepens it, reminding us that every moment is precious, every heartbeat meaningful, and every thought an opportunity to explore the mysteries of existence. As we journey deeper into understanding the boundaries of human life, we encounter the cutting edge of modern science. while myths and ancient philosophies offered hope and guidance. Today, biology and technology provide a roadmap for extending life and enhancing health span. Researchers around the world are tirelessly exploring how to delay aging, prevent disease, and ultimately expand the potential of human existence. One of the most promising avenues involves genetics and gene therapy. Scientists have discovered specific genes that regulate aging processes and longevity. For example, variations in the FOXO3 gene have been linked to longer lifespans in humans, while studies in model organisms such as worms, flies, and mice demonstrate that manipulating similar genetic pathways can extend life significantly. Gene therapy aims to adjust or enhance these genes, potentially slowing the biological clock and reducing the risk of age-related diseases. Imagine a future where the blueprint of life itself can be optimized, allowing cells to maintain youthful function far longer than currently possible. Senolytics represent another exciting development. These are compounds designed to selectively remove senescent cells, cells that have stopped dividing but continue to release inflammatory chemicals that damage neighboring tissue. By clearing these cells, researchers have observed improvements in organ function, mobility, and even cognitive ability in animal studies. Senolytics demonstrate that addressing cellular aging directly can have profound effects on overall health, bringing the dream of extended life closer to reality. Regenerative medicine and stem cell therapy offer additional hope. The remarkable ability to develop into many different cell types, replacing damaged or aging tissues. Scientists are exploring ways to use stem cells to repair the heart after injury, rejuvenate the liver, or restore neurological function. These therapies may one day allow humans to maintain organ vitality and function far beyond what was once considered natural. Nanotechnology introduces a microscopic perspective. Tiny machines, smaller than cells themselves, could potentially repair damaged tissues, eliminate toxins, or even correct genetic errors at the molecular level. Though largely experimental today, the concept envisions a future where the body becomes self-maintaining, where cellular decay can be continuously monitored and corrected in real time. Alongside these biological interventions, artificial intelligence and digital consciousness are opening entirely new possibilities. Some researchers speculate that if consciousness can be fully mapped and simulated, aspects of human experience might persist independently of the physical body. While controversial and largely theoretical, this idea hints at a form of immortality that transcends biology, merging life with technology in unprecedented ways. Yet, with each advancement, profound questions arise. Extending life is not simply a technical challenge. It is also an ethical, philosophical, and societal one. If humans could live for centuries, how would relationships, careers, and culture transform? Would a prolonged life enrich experience, or would it create boredom, stagnation, or inequality? These considerations remind us that immortality is as much about wisdom, balance, and reflection as it is about science. As you listen, imagine the laboratories where these discoveries are unfolding. Visualize researchers examining microscopic tissues, adjusting genetic sequences, or deploying nanoscale devices to repair cells. Picture computational models simulating human consciousness, exploring what it might mean to extend mind and body beyond natural limits. Sense the quiet excitement, the curiosity, and the dedication of those striving to understand life at its most fundamental level. Let yourself breathe deeply and feel a sense of wonder. Every breakthrough in longevity is built upon centuries of curiosity, experimentation, and imagination. The work happening today continues the same human quest that began in ancient times, the desire to understand life, to preserve it, and perhaps to extend it indefinitely, even as the science becomes complex. The essence remains simple. Humans seek not merely to exist, but to flourish, to experience the richness of life fully and to explore the mysteries of their own biology. And as you relax and listen, imagine yourself as part of this unfolding story, a witness to the frontier of human possibility, where dreams of eternal life are slowly moving from myth to reality. As we approach the final part of our exploration into the biological limits of life, let us consider the intersection of science, technology, and imagination. While genes, cells, and molecules define the boundaries of the human body, innovation is constantly challenging these boundaries, offering possibilities that were once the domain of science fiction. One promising field is cryonics. This approach involves preserving the human body, or even just the brain, at extremely low temperatures immediately after death, with the hope that future technology might revive the preserved individual. Cryonics is not yet proven, but it embodies a profound belief that death may not be final, and that future advances in medicine could restore life in ways we cannot yet fully comprehend. As you listen, imagine the serene stillness of cryonics facilities, the frozen chambers awaiting the distant future, silently holding the potential for rebirth. Mind uploading. Another speculative idea envisions transferring human consciousness into digital or synthetic substrates. If consciousness could be mapped, digitized, and sustained independently of the biological body, immortality might take a non-physical form. Philosophers and neuroscientists debate the feasibility and implications of such technology. Would a digital mind truly be you? Could experiences, emotions, and subjective awareness persist indefinitely? These questions expand the boundaries of immortality beyond biology, challenging our notions of self, identity, and existence. Artificial intelligence, AI, and robotics may also play a role in extending life indirectly. AI could monitor health in real time, detect disease before symptoms appear, or even predict genetic risks decades in advance. Robots might assist with daily living, physical rehabilitation, or surgical interventions, ensuring that humans maintain health and function as long as possible. Together, these technologies create a landscape in which human life may be prolonged, enriched, and safeguarded in ways previously unimaginable. Yet, the pursuit of immortality is not only scientific, it is deeply philosophical. If humans could live indefinitely, what would it mean to experience time? How would ambition, creativity, and relationships transform? Many thinkers argue that mortality gives life meaning. The finite nature of existence intensifies the beauty of each moment. Immortality, while alluring, could challenge our very perception of purpose, desire, and fulfillment. Listening now, imagine the quiet reflection of individuals pondering eternity, the stillness of thought, the curiosity mingled with awe, the realization that life's richness may depend on its impermanence. Cultural and psychological aspects of extended life also play a role. Humans thrive on growth, learning, and adaptation. A life stretched across centuries might provide unparalleled opportunities for exploration, mastery, and personal development. Yet it may also introduce unprecedented challenges, emotional fatigue, social adaptation, and the weight of endless memory. Immortality, therefore, is not a simple reward. It is a profound responsibility. Consider the possibility of merging biological life with digital consciousness. Imagine a future where the mind, free from the limits of the body, explores virtual worlds, interacts with others across vast distances, and preserves memories indefinitely. Visualize your own consciousness drifting through networks of information, connected yet independent, experiencing eternity in a state of serene awareness. This vision, while speculative, reflects humanity's enduring desire to transcend the natural limits imposed by biology. As you listen and breathe slowly, allow yourself to feel both wonder and tranquility. The quest for immortality through Biology, technology, or philosophy is ultimately a reflection of human curiosity, imagination, and hope. It connects us across time, from ancient myths to modern laboratories, from meditation halls to digital simulations, from philosophical contemplation to cutting-edge research. Each effort, each dream, each scientific inquiry contributes to the tapestry of human striving. And now, as you settle more deeply into relaxation, let the thought of life's complexity and potential wash over you. The interplay of biology, technology, and philosophy creates an ever-expanding horizon, inviting reflection, curiosity, and gentle contemplation. Imagine yourself drifting through centuries of knowledge, innovation, and imagination connected to the timeless human pursuit of understanding, growth, and perhaps immortality. Asterisk, as we move into Section 3, our focus shifts from the biological mechanisms and technological possibilities of extended life to the profound questions that arise when contemplating immortality. Living longer, or even indefinitely, is not merely a matter of science or medicine. It is an exploration of the human mind, ethics, society, and the nature of existence itself. Tonight, as you listen, imagine the calm and quiet of reflection, allowing your thoughts to drift gently into these deeper questions while your body relaxes. One of the first questions that arises is the nature of identity over time. If humans were to live for centuries, would the self you are today remain the same self in the distant future? Philosophers have long debated whether personal identity is tied to memory, consciousness, or physical continuity. Over decades or centuries, experiences accumulate, personalities evolve, and priorities shift. Would you still feel like the same person after living for 500 years? Or would you become someone fundamentally different, shaped by time, memory, and endless experience? This question is central to understanding what immortality might mean for the individual. Closely related is the idea of purpose and meaning. Mortality gives urgency to our actions, infusing life with significance because every moment is finite. If life were extended indefinitely, how might human motivation and creativity change? Would accomplishments lose their weight, or would people find new ways to define fulfillment and satisfaction? Philosophers suggest that meaning is not simply a product of time limits, but also of engagement, challenge, and intentionality. Even in an endless life, humans might seek purpose in learning, exploration, relationships, and artistic creation. Societal implications are equally profound. Imagine a world where many or all humans live far longer than today. How would governments, economies, and communities adapt? Resource allocation, population growth, and intergenerational equity would become urgent considerations. Would extended life deepen inequality if only certain groups had access to life-extending technologies? Or would society evolve systems to ensure fairness and sustainability? These questions emphasize that immortality is not just a personal journey, but a collective challenge, requiring thoughtful planning, ethics, and cooperation. The psychological impact of long life also deserves attention. Humans are wired for cycles of growth, learning, and aging. Emotions, memory, and relationships are shaped by the rhythms of life and death. Living for centuries could reshape human psychology in unpredictable ways. Relationships might be prolonged, but loss and grief could accumulate, creating unique emotional landscapes. Memory might become a burden, or conversely, a source of unparalleled wisdom. The mind must adapt to infinite possibilities and continuous change, which could alter how people experience joy, sadness, and connection. Philosophers and ethicists also consider moral responsibility. If humans could live indefinitely, would we have increased accountability for our actions, knowing that consequences could unfold over centuries? Would ethics evolve alongside longevity, or would humans face new moral dilemmas impossible to resolve? Immortality might require a reevaluation of justice, empathy, and societal norms, as extended life alters the temporal context in which decisions are made. Furthermore, immortality intersects with spiritual and existential questions. Many religious and philosophical traditions ponder life after death, the nature of the soul, and the meaning of existence. Science may extend biological life, but questions of consciousness, spiritual fulfillment, and existential satisfaction remain. How would eternal life affect human contemplation of mortality, spirituality, and the universe itself? Might humans develop new forms of meaning, or would the age-old questions of purpose persist even in an endless life? As you continue to listen, imagine yourself in quiet reflection, considering these ethical, psychological, and societal dimensions. Picture philosophers, scientists, and ordinary people contemplating their place in an extended life, asking the questions that have echoed through history. Who am I? Why am I here? What does it mean to live fully? The answers may not be clear, yet the process of reflection enriches understanding, offering both serenity and curiosity. Take a slow, deep breath, and allow these thoughts to flow gently through your mind. Consider the balance between desire and responsibility, curiosity and wisdom, ambition and contentment. Immortality is not simply about avoiding death. It is about understanding the weight and potential of endless existence, contemplating what it means to live with intention, awareness, and compassion. As you sink deeper into relaxation, let these reflections create a calm, contemplative space. The philosophical and ethical dimensions of life extension remind us that human existence is more than biology. It is a tapestry of thought, emotion, connection, and responsibility, interwoven with every moment we experience. As we continue our contemplation of immortality, let us turn our attention to how extended life might reshape the fabric of society. Imagine a world in which humans could live for centuries. How would our communities, governments, and cultural systems adapt to this new reality? Consider the implications for families with lifespans extended indefinitely. Multiple generations could coexist, creating complex intergenerational dynamics. Relationships might deepen, but the emotional weight of watching multiple eras unfold could also be profound. In such a world, the concept of career and personal development would transform. Lifelong learning could become a literal possibility, allowing humans to pursue multiple professions, arts, or scientific endeavors across centuries. Education would no longer be a single phase of life, but a continuous journey, evolving alongside personal interests and societal needs. Creativity could flourish in ways currently unimaginable as individuals have the time to master multiple disciplines and fully explore the depths of their talents. Love and intimacy would also change dramatically. Partnerships and marriages, traditionally framed by finite lifespans, would face new emotional challenges. Would humans form long-term bonds lasting centuries? Or would relationships evolve in cycles, with individuals forming new connections across time? The emotional richness and complexity of human interaction could increase exponentially. But so might the risk of loss and heartache as experiences accumulate. Humans would need to navigate the psychology of attachment, impermanence, and evolving identities over vast stretches of time. Ethically, immortality raises questions about global responsibility and resource allocation. If populations grow indefinitely, how would societies ensure access to food, energy, healthcare, and living space? Would the privileged gain disproportionate advantages, potentially creating greater inequality? Governments, scientists, and ethicists would need to consider new policies and frameworks to maintain fairness, sustainability, and justice. Perhaps new societal structures would emerge, emphasizing stewardship, cooperation, and long-term planning in ways impossible in a world constrained by natural lifespans. Cultural evolution would also accelerate. Art, literature, philosophy, and science could progress at unprecedented rates as individuals and societies accumulate knowledge and experience over centuries. Traditions might blend, decay, or transform, giving rise to a dynamic, fluid cultural landscape. Imagine museums, libraries, and archives filled with knowledge spanning centuries of human thought and creativity, a living record of human achievement. Constantly evolving, the psychological aspects of immortality remain profound. Humans would need to navigate memory, identity, and emotional resilience in ways previously unimagined. Long lifespans could intensify existential reflection. Every choice, every action, every relationship gains a new temporal weight. Emotions could deepen, but so could the burden of regret or unfulfilled desire. Philosophers might argue that eternal life requires cultivating wisdom, emotional balance, and mindfulness, not just physical longevity. Additionally, immortality could redefine our relationship with the natural world. With longer lives, humans might take a more measured approach to environmental stewardship, recognizing the long-term consequences of their actions. Climate, biodiversity, and ecosystems could be managed with foresight, as extended human experience allows for deeper understanding and responsibility. Immortality might foster a profound connection to the Earth and the universe. As individuals witness change and growth across centuries, as you relax and listen, imagine yourself existing within this extended society. Picture the interplay of relationships, communities, and knowledge unfolding over centuries. Sense the slow accumulation of wisdom, the ebb and flow of culture, and the delicate balance between human ambition and ethical responsibility. Let your mind drift gently through these possibilities, feeling both awe and tranquility. Immortality challenges us to reconsider not only how we live, but also how we think, care, and connect. The pursuit of eternal life is not merely scientific or technological. It is a philosophical journey, an exploration of human values, meaning, and purpose. Each choice, each reflection, and each relationship contributes to the tapestry of existence in ways that extend far beyond the span of a single lifetime. Take a deep, slow breath. Allow yourself to feel connected to both the vastness of possibility and the calm of the present moment. Even as we contemplate eternity, the gentle rhythm of your breath and the serenity of thought create a space for peace, curiosity, and quiet reflection. Asterisk. As we reach the final part of Section 3, our attention turns to the profound, existential questions that immortality evokes. Living indefinitely would force humanity to confront issues that have long occupied philosophers, theologians, and thinkers. The nature of happiness, the meaning of purpose, and the ethical responsibilities of eternal life. One of the most pressing questions is the concept of fulfillment. Humans derive meaning from achievements, relationships, and experiences, often framed by the reality of time's limits. If life were eternal, would the pursuit of goals lose urgency, or would humans redefine purpose in more complex ways? Some philosophers suggest that infinite life could foster mastery and depth in arts, sciences, and wisdom, allowing humans to explore nuances of existence previously unreachable. Yet, others warn of potential existential stagnation, an emotional and intellectual fatigue born from endless repetition and accumulation of experience. Ethical responsibility becomes magnified in an immortal society. Actions taken today could have consequences that unfold across centuries. Moral decisions would need to be considered in broader, more long-term frameworks. Questions about justice, fairness, and stewardship would take on a new significance. For example, how should wealth and resources be distributed when some individuals have lifespans that stretch far beyond typical generational limits? Would extended life exacerbates inequality, or would new ethical frameworks emerge to balance longevity with equity? Another central theme is the human relationship with time and memory. Immortality would accumulate centuries of personal memory, each with joys, sorrows, and lessons. This vast repository of experiences could foster unmatched wisdom, yet it could also weigh heavily on the psyche. Humans might need to develop techniques to manage memory and emotional well-being across centuries. Cultivating mindfulness, detachment, or even selective memory as coping mechanisms, love, connection, and companionship would transform in an immortal society. Relationships would evolve over centuries, requiring extraordinary patience, adaptability, and empathy. The dynamics of friendship, romance, and family could become complex and layered. As individuals witness the growth, change, and departure of countless loved ones, humans might learn to navigate attachment in deeper, more meaningful ways, balancing the joy of connection with the inevitability of change. Philosophically, immortality challenges us to consider the nature of identity itself. Would a person remain fundamentally the same after centuries of change and experience, or would the self continually evolve into something new? Questions of consciousness, personality, and essence would dominate both individual reflection and collective discourse. Perhaps the answer lies in understanding identity not as static, but as a fluid, evolving phenomenon shaped by endless experiences. The pursuit of eternal life also invites reflection on human creativity and cultural legacy. With centuries to create, individuals could contribute to art, literature, philosophy, and science in ways previously unimaginable. Culture could become a living, continuously evolving archive of human thought, where knowledge is built, preserved, and expanded across generations. Yet, with time abundant, would urgency and innovation diminish, or would the freedom of endless time inspire unprecedented creativity? Finally, immortality forces contemplation of human humility and interconnection. Even with extended life, humans remain part of larger systems, ecological, social, and cosmic. Extended existence may encourage long-term stewardship of the Earth, deeper understanding of ecosystems, and heightened awareness of the consequences of our actions. Immortality could foster profound empathy as humans witness the unfolding of life and change across centuries, learning to act with foresight, compassion, and responsibility. As you continue to listen, picture yourself immersed in this contemplative landscape. Feel the serenity of thought, the calm reflection on existence, and the quiet wonder of human potential. Imagine the choices, the ethical deliberations, and the philosophical explorations that define life extended beyond conventional limits. Let these reflections flow gently, like a slow, soothing current, carrying both curiosity and tranquility into your awareness. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel the vastness of possibility while remaining anchored in the present moment. Immortality, while extraordinary, is ultimately a mirror reflecting the depth, resilience, and complexity of human nature. Even as we ponder centuries of life, the essential lessons remain simple. Value connection, seek wisdom, act ethically, and cultivate mindfulness. And now, to drift deeper into relaxation, let the ideas of endless possibility and ethical reflection merge with calm serenity. Imagine yourself floating in a space where time is abundant, knowledge is infinite, and consciousness can explore the mysteries of life with patience, clarity, and peace. As we embark on Section 4, our attention shifts to the frontier of human ingenuity, exploring the technologies and speculative innovations that may one day extend life beyond current limits. While previous sections have examined the biology, philosophy, and ethics of immortality, here we explore how imagination, engineering, and science may converge to create unprecedented possibilities. Tonight, as you listen, allow your mind to drift through these futuristic landscapes while your body remains relaxed and serene. One of the most compelling areas is genetic engineering. Advances in CRISPR and other gene editing technologies offer the potential to repair or enhance DNA, slowing, aging, and preventing diseases before they manifest. Imagine a world in which cellular degeneration could be halted or reversed, allowing organs to remain youthful and resilient indefinitely. Scientists envision therapies that might target telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of chromosomes, preventing the natural shortening that drives aging. Such interventions could dramatically increase human lifespan, potentially allowing centuries of active, healthy life. Nanotechnology presents another extraordinary frontier. Nanobots, microscopic machines designed to operate within the body, could repair cellular damage, remove toxins, and optimize organ function. Picture billions of tiny machines circulating through the bloodstream, constantly monitoring and enhancing your body at the molecular level. Nanotechnology could eliminate the effects of aging at their source, addressing everything from genetic mutations to accumulated cellular damage. These innovations, still largely theoretical, suggest a future in which the human body becomes a self-maintaining system of remarkable resilience. Synthetic biology expands these possibilities further. By combining biological and artificial systems, scientists could engineer tissues, organs, and even entire biological constructs designed for longevity and adaptability. Imagine hybrid systems where natural cells coexist with synthetic enhancements, creating a body optimized for durability, health, and cognitive performance. In such a scenario, humans could not only extend lifespan, but also enhance physical and mental capacities, potentially transcending the limitations of evolution. The field of brain-computer interfaces (BC) is equally transformative. BC could augment human cognition, memory, and perception, allowing individuals to interact seamlessly with digital environments. Imagine accessing information instantaneously, sharing thoughts directly with others, or storing memories externally to prevent cognitive decline. These technologies blur the line between biological consciousness and digital enhancement, offering new ways to preserve identity and knowledge over extended lifespans. Artificial intelligence, AI, is poised to complement human longevity in profound ways. AI systems could anticipate health risks, personalize treatment plans, and even simulate future outcomes of medical interventions. Imagine an AI companion that monitors your physiological state continuously, advising you on nutrition, exercise, and mental well-being, and ensuring that your body and mind remain in optimal condition for centuries. By integrating AI into healthcare, humans could navigate extended life with unprecedented precision, minimizing risk and maximizing vitality. Beyond the individual, societal implications of these technologies are vast. Extended lifespans may lead to profound shifts in education, work, and culture. Lifelong learning could become a reality as humans accumulate knowledge and expertise across centuries. Artistic expression, scientific discovery, and philosophical inquiry might flourish in ways currently unimaginable. At the same time, the potential for inequality, overpopulation, and resource drain would require careful planning and ethical governance. Speculative concepts like mind uploading and digital consciousness push the boundaries even further. If the human mind could be fully digitized, consciousness could persist independently of the biological body. Imagine existing in virtual environments, interacting with other digital minds, or exploring simulated worlds across centuries. While such scenarios remain speculative, they highlight the interplay between technology, imagination, and the enduring human desire to transcend mortality. Finally, consider the concept of space colonization. Humanity may extend life not only on Earth, but across the cosmos. By establishing colonies on other planets or in space habitats, humans could diversify survival risks and experience novel environments. Extended lifespans would allow individuals to participate in long-term projects, spanning decades or centuries, from planetary terraforming to interstellar exploration. In this context, technology, longevity, and exploration converge, offering a vision of life that is boundless in both time and space. As you listen and relax, picture the possibilities: nanobots repairing cells, AI companions guiding your health, consciousness exploring digital realms, and humans traversing distant worlds. These visions are not mere fantasy. They represent the trajectory of scientific curiosity and human innovation. Let your imagination drift gently through these scenarios, combining wonder with calm as you contemplate the potential future of human life. Take a slow, deep breath, allowing your mind to absorb both the magnitude of possibility and the serenity of thought. In this moment, you are connected to the infinite potential of human ingenuity, dreaming alongside generations of tide skier. Modi OC. Take a slow tide skier breath. Allows/precto, my plus. My resive. My splod exide /brave. My/Presley me. Pry, my Miss Ellis. Decord my asif, by wall lies. Presitu go to soda quiet. It is it, koi let cod. Scientists, philosophers, and visionaries who have dared to imagine life beyond current limits. Asterisk. As we continue exploring the frontiers of human longevity, let us delve deeper into the technologies and innovations that could transform not only individual life spans, but society as a whole. These speculative scenarios invite both curiosity and calm reflection, offering a vision of the future where human potential may expand beyond current comprehension. One fascinating area is regenerative medicine. Stem cell therapies are advancing rapidly, offering the possibility of repairing damaged organs, tissues, and even entire biological systems. Imagine a world in which every injury or disease could be reversed or prevented, allowing humans to maintain vitality indefinitely. Organ replacement could occur not with donor organs, but with bioengineered organs grown from one's own cells, eliminating rejection risks. This technological frontier would not only extend life, but enhance the quality of living, preserving physical and cognitive abilities across centuries. Cryonics and suspended animation present another speculative pathway, while still largely experimental. These technologies envision preserving human bodies at extremely low temperatures until future medical advancements can revive them. Picture individuals entering stasis to bypass terminal illness or aging, awakening decades or even centuries later in a fully restored, technologically advanced world. Such scenarios challenge our conventional understanding of life and death, suggesting that mortality may one day be negotiable rather than absolute. The field of genomic personalization is equally transformative. By decoding and manipulating individual genetic blueprints, humans could proactively prevent diseases, optimize health, and extend lifespan. Imagine personalized treatments that continuously adjust to your body's changing needs, guided by AI and real-time monitoring. Genetic enhancements might improve not only longevity, but also resilience, cognitive abilities, and emotional stability. The implications are profound. Human potential could be unlocked in ways that are currently unimaginable. Blending biology and technology in harmonious synergy, neural enhancement and cognitive augmentation offer additional possibilities. Brain-computer interfaces, neuroprosthetics, and cognitive implants could enhance memory, learning, and creativity. Picture an individual with perfect recall, instantaneous access to global knowledge, and the ability to learn multiple skills simultaneously. Such technologies could complement extended life, ensuring that mental agility matches physical longevity. Furthermore, digital memory storage could preserve individual consciousness beyond the biological body, allowing identity and experience to persist indefinitely. Immortality technologies also intersect with societal and ethical considerations. If these innovations are unevenly distributed, social inequality could intensify dramatically. Who gets access to life-extending treatments? How will governments and organizations regulate population growth, resource consumption, and intergenerational fairness? The ethical landscape becomes increasingly complex as humanity balances technological possibility with moral responsibility. Thoughtful deliberation will be necessary to navigate these unprecedented challenges. Speculative. Futures invite imaginative exploration. Consider virtual immortality, where consciousness is uploaded into digital realms. In these environments, humans could exist independently of physical bodies, exploring limitless virtual worlds, engaging in collaborative creation, and forming communities unconstrained by biological limitations. Such scenarios challenge fundamental concepts of selfhood, reality, and existence, requiring reflection on what it truly means to live. Space colonization and cosmic exploration also intersect with longevity technologies. Humans living for centuries could participate in long-term space missions, planetary colonization, and interstellar exploration. With extended life, the temporal horizon for human ambition expands dramatically, enabling projects that span centuries. Imagine contributing to the terraforming of distant planets, the creation of self-sustaining habitats, or even the evolution of entirely new civilizations beyond Earth. Longevity. Technology and exploration converge to redefine human potential on a cosmic scale. Even as we consider these extraordinary possibilities, it is important to maintain psychological and emotional balance. Extended life, advanced cognition, and digital existence present novel challenges for mental health, relationships, and emotional resilience. Humans must develop adaptive strategies to navigate centuries of experience, including mindfulness, emotional regulation, and ethical reflection. These practices ensure that technological advances enhance life rather than overwhelm it. As you relax and absorb these concepts, imagine a world in which humans coexist with advanced technologies, explore distant worlds, and engage in intellectual, creative, and ethical growth across centuries. Feel the calm curiosity of this future, where possibilities are vast and life is both extended and enriched. Allow these reflections to drift gently through your mind, merging imagination with serenity as you contemplate the balance between technological power, ethical responsibility, and human potential. Take a slow, deep breath, sensing the connection between your consciousness and the expansive vision of future life. Imagine yourself existing in a world where the limits of biology are transcended. Yet mindfulness, ethics, and emotional wisdom remain central to every choice and experience. As we conclude Section 4, let us synthesize the possibilities of extended life with the technologies, innovations, and imaginative scenarios previously explored. The intersection of genetics, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, space exploration, and digital consciousness creates a vision of humanity that is radically different from what we know today. Allow your mind to wander through this vision as you relax and prepare for deep reflection. One of the most compelling ideas is the integration of multiple life extension technologies. Imagine a world where regenerative medicine, nanobots, genetic engineering, and cognitive augmentation work together seamlessly. Your body maintains optimal health through cellular repair, enhanced immunity, and organ regeneration. Your mind remains sharp, memory is preserved, and cognition expands beyond natural limits. Digital backups ensure that even if biological systems fail, consciousness persists, creating a hybrid existence that blends the physical and virtual. The ethical landscape of such a world is profound. Humans would need to navigate questions of fairness, access, and societal balance. How do we ensure that extended life benefits all, rather than creating a privileged elite? What responsibilities come with centuries of experience and knowledge? Extended life may heighten ethical awareness, as each action carries long-term consequences. Humans may develop deeper empathy, foresight, and cooperation, recognizing the interconnectedness of society and the environment across centuries. Cultural and creative evolution would accelerate in an immortal society. Artists, scientists, and thinkers could dedicate decades or centuries to perfecting their craft, producing works of unprecedented depth and beauty. Literature, music, visual art, and philosophy could evolve continuously, enriched by countless perspectives accumulated over long lifespans. Cultural heritage would be preserved with fidelity, yet continually reinterpreted and expanded. Creating a dynamic and evolving civilization, the concept of interstellar exploration becomes tangible with extended human life. Centuries-long lifespans make deep space travel feasible, allowing humans to explore planets, moons, and even distant star systems. Projects that once seemed impossible due to time constraints could now be realized, from planetary terraforming to building self-sustaining colonies. Humans could witness the evolution of ecosystems on other worlds, participate in long-term scientific experiments, and contribute to civilizations across the galaxy. Virtual immortality and digital existence also offer profound possibilities. Minds could inhabit virtual realms, interacting with others in environments unconstrained by the physical world. Learning, creativity, and social interaction could continue indefinitely, allowing consciousness to explore novel realities. This may redefine identity, relationships, and meaning, challenging the boundaries between life, death, and digital existence. Despite these wonders, psychological and emotional adaptation remains critical. Immortality, hybrid existence, and digital consciousness require humans to cultivate mindfulness, resilience, and ethical reflection. Extended life may amplify both joy and sorrow. Navigating centuries of experience demands emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Humans must learn to balance curiosity, ambition, and responsibility while maintaining inner peace. As you listen, imagine a future where life is extended, consciousness persists, and humans explore both physical and digital realms. Sense the calm, the wonder, and the vast possibilities of this speculative future. Allow yourself to relax into the contemplation of what it means to live beyond current limits. Blending serenity with curiosity, take a deep breath and picture yourself navigating a world of limitless potential. Imagine centuries of learning, creativity, exploration, and reflection. Feel the calm connection to both present awareness and the boundless possibilities of the future. Asterisk as we enter Section 5. Our journey shifts from the scientific and technological to the philosophical and contemplative. Tonight, as you relax, allow your mind to drift through questions that have occupied humanity for millennia. What is the meaning of life? What does it mean to exist, to age, to die? And if immortality were possible, how would that transform the essence of being? As you listen, settle comfortably and let these thoughts wash over you like a gentle stream, flowing slowly and calmly. Mortality has always given life a sense of urgency and purpose. The finite nature of our existence shapes our decisions, relationships, and ambitions. It encourages appreciation for fleeting moments, drives creativity, and fosters deep emotional connections. Imagine for a moment what life might feel like if this temporal boundary were lifted. Without the shadow of death, would joy feel as vivid? Would accomplishments retain their significance? Philosophers have long debated whether meaning is derived from limitation or from experience itself, independent of time. One compelling idea is that mortality fosters wisdom. Knowing that life is limited can sharpen priorities and deepen understanding. Experiences become more precious because each moment carries weight. Conversely, immortality might encourage exploration and experimentation. Humans could take risks, learn continuously, and pursue knowledge without fear of wasting time. Endless life could reveal truths previously inaccessible, allowing reflection across centuries rather than decades. In this light, immortality is not just an extension of life, but a transformation of human perspective and consciousness. The nature of identity also comes into focus. If one were to live for centuries or millennia, how would the self evolve? Human identity is shaped by memory, experience, and the passage of time. Immortality could stretch these dimensions indefinitely, creating opportunities for profound growth, but also raising questions. Would we remain fundamentally ourselves? Or would the accumulation of experiences reshape us into entirely new beings? Philosophers suggest that identity is fluid, and that immortality may enhance self-awareness, enabling individuals to explore the deepest layers of consciousness and personality. Another key consideration is ethical and moral reflection. Long life amplifies responsibility. Every choice, every action resonates over centuries, magnifying consequences. Immortals might approach decision-making with unprecedented foresight, developing ethical frameworks attuned to long-term impacts. Societies of extended life would need to reconsider justice, equity, and the management of resources. Philosophical reflection in this context becomes both personal and collective, guiding conduct across generations. Human relationships would transform profoundly. Lifelong bonds, romantic connections, friendships, and familial ties would evolve. Over centuries, imagine experiencing love and loss repeatedly, gaining insights into connection and empathy beyond what is currently imaginable. Immortality might encourage patience, understanding, and emotional maturity. Yet, it could also challenge attachment, as the impermanence of others remains a reality. Even if individual life endures, purpose and motivation remain central philosophical questions. With limitless time, how do humans find meaning? Some argue that purpose is defined not by lifespan, but by engagement, curiosity, and contribution. Immortal humans might pursue cumulative goals, solving grand scientific mysteries, creating masterpieces of art, or exploring the universe. Even in eternity, the quest for understanding, beauty, and connection could sustain fulfillment. As you relax, imagine floating gently through these philosophical landscapes. Consider the value of life and death, the potential of endless experience, and the choices that shape identity. Let your mind rest in the calm contemplation of what it means to exist. Breathe slowly, letting the rhythm of thought and reflection soothe your mind. Allow the serenity of this moment to settle deeply. As we prepare to continue exploring immortality, meaning, and human consciousness in Section 5, Part 2, where the interplay between philosophical wisdom, creativity, and emotional depth will further unfold. As we continue exploring the philosophical dimensions of immortality, it's important to consider creativity and the pursuit of knowledge across extended lifespans. Imagine centuries devoted to understanding the universe, mastering arts, or creating profound literature and music. Human potential could unfold at an unprecedented pace, as time no longer constrains curiosity and innovation. Immortality would allow thinkers to accumulate experience, refine insights, and explore complex concepts with patience and depth impossible in ordinary lifespans. Memory and consciousness would also take on new significance. In a life without natural boundaries, memory becomes both a treasure and a challenge. How would the human mind cope with centuries of experiences, joys, and sorrows? Philosophers speculate that memory would need adaptive structures, perhaps aided by technology or cognitive augmentation, to prevent overwhelm. Consciousness might evolve, integrating vast lifetimes of learning into a richer, more nuanced perspective. In this context, immortality does not merely extend life, but transforms the very way we experience reality. Ethical and moral responsibility gains new layers in the context of immortality, with centuries to observe consequences and weigh outcomes. Individuals could develop unprecedented ethical awareness. Choices would ripple across time, affecting not only personal destiny, but society, ecosystems, and even civilizations. Immortality may cultivate patience, foresight, and compassion as the weight of consequences becomes more tangible. Philosophers suggest that moral reasoning in an immortal society could be deeper, more nuanced, and more attuned to collective well-being. Human emotions and relationships would evolve profoundly. Love, friendship, and empathy might deepen as bonds stretch across decades and centuries. Conversely, attachment may be challenged by the inevitability of loss, since others may not share the gift of immortality. Immortals may develop unique strategies for emotional resilience, learning to value connection without dependency, and cherishing moments with acute awareness of impermanence in others. Emotional depth could flourish in a way that is both beautiful and introspective, fostering wisdom and compassion. Philosophical reflections on purpose remain central. With limitless time, the human quest for meaning may shift from short-term achievement to enduring contributions. People might focus on projects that transcend generations, creating works of art, advancing scientific knowledge, or fostering social progress. Purpose may become iterative and cumulative, sustained by curiosity, creativity, and engagement rather than external pressures or lifespan limitations. The pursuit of wisdom itself could become a primary motivator as immortals seek to understand existence in ways previously inaccessible. Consider also the interplay between solitude and social experience. Extended life may encourage periods of introspection, meditation, and personal growth, while also deepening social connections. Immortality allows humans to experiment with different lifestyles, communities, and cultural paradigms, fostering adaptability and self-understanding. Reflection across centuries could refine empathy, creativity, and moral insight, blending personal evolution with collective experience. Cultural and societal evolution under immortality could be extraordinary. Knowledge, tradition, and creative expression could accumulate without loss, building civilizations of unprecedented sophistication. Philosophers, scientists, and artists could collaborate across generations, contributing to projects spanning centuries. Education might evolve into lifelong, dynamic processes, while society adapts to integrate multi-century experiences and perspectives. Immortality would transform not only the individual, but the very fabric of civilization as you listen and relax. Picture yourself moving gently through these reflections, observing centuries of learning, experiencing deep emotions, and contributing to society in profound ways. Feel the calmness of insight and the serenity of understanding, allowing the mind to wander through possibilities without pressure or haste. Take slow, deep breaths, letting your imagination flow gently as you contemplate the richness and complexity of immortal existence. By embracing these reflections, we explore not just life extension, but the enhancement of human consciousness, creativity, and wisdom. Immortality, whether literal or speculative, invites profound inquiry into what it means to exist, connect, and contribute across time. Let this understanding settle gently in your mind, preparing you for the next phase of exploration. If human beings could live forever, the most pressing question would not be about how, but whether we should. Ethics, more than biology, would become the battlefield of this new reality. Living forever seems like a gift when imagined in the abstract. Endless years of experience, unlimited time to pursue passions, relationships that need never end. Yet, once you begin to probe deeper, the edges fray. Questions emerge like cracks in a flawless surface. Is immortality a right, or is it a privilege? Should everyone have access to it, or only those who can afford it? And what would happen to our sense of morality when the weight of consequences stretches across eternity? For centuries, philosophers have warned about the dangers of hubris, the arrogance of reaching beyond natural limits. Greek myths tell of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun, and of Tithonus, granted eternal life but not eternal youth, cursed to wither endlessly. These myths remind us that immortality without careful thought could become a torment rather than a blessing. The ethical dilemma is not just about whether immortality is possible, but whether it should ever be allowed. Imagine a world where immortality is available only to the wealthy elite. The gap between rich and poor would widen beyond comprehension. Those who control resources could extend their reign indefinitely, creating dynasties that span centuries. Political leaders might never step down, their influence calcified in perpetuity. In such a scenario, democracy itself could crumble under the weight of eternal incumbency. The ethical concern here is not merely inequality. It is the permanent cementing of inequality. But what if immortality were distributed universally, offered freely to all humanity? At first glance, this might sound fair, even utopian. It's fairness. Inaccess does not resolve the larger moral complications. A world where no one dies would face unimaginable pressure on resources, ecosystems, and space. Ethical responsibility would shift from how should I live my life to how should we, as an immortal species, live together without consuming ourselves. The very idea of responsibility expands across centuries. Actions once forgotten could return to haunt civilizations hundreds of years later. A war started in 2100 might still echo in the lives of combatants in 2500. Another ethical challenge emerges in the very fabric of human motivation. Much of our morality, our compassion, and even our sense of justice are shaped by mortality. Knowing that life is fragile and short makes us value kindness, sacrifice, and legacy. If death were removed from the equation, would empathy diminish? Would an immortal individual still risk their safety for another, knowing they could simply endure and outlast? Would love still carry the same meaning, or would eternal companionship become an endless obligation? Furthermore, there is the question of punishment and justice. If someone commits a crime in an immortal society, how should punishment be measured? A prison sentence of 50 years might seem unbearable today, but to someone who could live for 10,000 years, it might feel trivial. Would punishment then need to scale with eternity? Or would ethics require us to rethink justice, entirely focusing not on retribution, but on rehabilitation? Since no one could ever truly be removed from the flow of history, religions, too, would be thrown into crisis. For millennia. Spiritual traditions have shaped human ethics by framing life as finite, with death as the gateway to something beyond. Immortality on earth would disrupt these frameworks. Believers might question the need for heaven or reincarnation if they could avoid death indefinitely. Others might see immortality as humanity playing God, committing a moral trespass by rejecting the natural cycle of life and death. The ethical clash between scientific achievement and spiritual humility would become one of the defining debates of the immortal age. But perhaps the greatest ethical challenge lies not in policy or philosophy, but in the human heart. Imagine watching generation after generation rise and fall while you remain. Would it be ethical to have children in an immortal world where population could spiral beyond control? Would it be ethical to withhold immortality from new generations to prevent collapse? What does it mean to live responsibly when there is no endpoint, no final accounting of your choices? The ethics of immortality is not a puzzle with one solution. It is a web of contradictions: fairness versus sustainability, freedom versus responsibility, individual rights versus collective survival. As we stretch our imaginations toward the possibility of endless life, we must also stretch our moral frameworks to confront what immortality would truly demand of us. When we explore the ethics of immortality, the debate inevitably shifts toward the fundamental balance between individual desires and collective well-being. The promise of endless life is seductive. Who wouldn't want more time to learn, to love, to create? Yet, the moral landscape becomes thorny when we imagine what this means not only for ourselves, but for everyone else. One of the first ethical dilemmas is the question of fairness. If immortality technology were ever discovered, who would get access to it? Would it be available to everyone equally, or would it be hoarded by the wealthy and powerful? History gives us sobering examples. Whenever a groundbreaking medical treatment is developed, it is rarely available to all at once. Wealth often acts as the gatekeeper. If immortality were restricted to a small elite, we might see a new kind of social stratification, one not defined merely by wealth, but by the very length of one's life. A ruling class of immortals, contrasted against a mortal underclass, could destabilize societies in profound ways. But even if, hypothetically, immortality were available to everyone, ethical challenges would not disappear. Overpopulation looms as a critical issue. If death is no longer a natural mechanism of balance, how will societies manage limited resources? Food, water, housing, and energy might become strained beyond capacity. Some argue that technological progress would eventually catch up developments. In renewable energy, synthetic food, or space colonization could offset population growth. Still, these are speculative solutions. The immediate moral problem is whether granting endless life to billions of people could create suffering through scarcity. Another angle is the value of life itself. Death, for all its sorrow, gives urgency and meaning to human existence. Knowing our time is limited shapes the way we live. It compels us to take risks, to appreciate fleeting moments, to prioritize love and creativity. If immortality erases the deadline, will we lose that sense of meaning? Could eternal life become stagnant, repetitive, or even unbearably monotonous? The ethics here are subtle. Does society have the right to offer individuals something that may diminish their sense of purpose, even if it spares them from death? Moreover, there is the question of identity and continuity. If someone lives for centuries, do they remain the same person? Memory, personality, and relationships all evolve. After hundreds of years, you might feel like a stranger to your former self. Marriages, friendships, and communities might crumble under the weight of infinite time. Ethically, how should we handle the dissolution of commitments that were once thought to last a lifetime, when lifetime itself has no end? Should vows, contracts, or responsibilities be reconsidered in an immortal society? From a philosophical standpoint, the distribution of suffering also raises questions. Right now, death is universal. It spares no one. But in an immortal world, mortality might become a kind of inequality. Imagine a world where some people opt for immortality, while others either cannot or choose not to. Would mortality then be seen as a failure, a burden, or even a stigma? Could societies inadvertently pressure individuals into choosing immortality simply to avoid exclusion? Finally, consider the environmental ethics of immortality. Human life has a cost not just in terms of resources, but in the ecological footprint each person leaves behind. Endless life means endless consumption. If we cannot find ways to balance human ambition with planetary sustainability, immortality could accelerate ecological collapse. This frames immortality not only as a personal choice, but as a planetary responsibility. In sum, the ethics of immortality is not a simple question of whether living forever is good or bad. It is a mosaic of dilemmas: fairness, inequality, resource distribution, purpose, identity, relationships, and environmental impact. For every potential benefit, there is a shadow of risk. The challenge is not merely whether we could achieve immortality, but whether we shouldn't, if so, under what conditions. Asterisk. As we continue exploring the ethical landscape of immortality, we arrive at one of the most unsettling yet essential questions. What responsibilities would immortals carry toward those who are not? The idea of living forever is not just about extending one's personal timeline, it is also about how that timeline intersects with countless others. To live indefinitely is to witness generations come and go, to watch civilizations rise and fall, and to face the question of whether immortality itself creates an ethical obligation to guide, protect, or even control the future of humanity. One of the first dilemmas arises when we imagine immortals coexisting alongside mortals. If some individuals gain access to eternal life, does that inherently make them morally responsible for the stewardship of humanity? For instance, if an immortal scientist were to stand by while billions suffered from preventable diseases, their inaction might be seen as far more culpable than the inaction of an ordinary person. After all, the immortal has not only unlimited time to learn, but also unlimited opportunities to intervene. Would immortality itself create a new standard of moral accountability? Closely tied to this is the issue of power imbalance. Imagine a world in which a select elite of immortals exists. Over centuries, they could accumulate immense knowledge, wealth, and influence, far beyond the reach of mortals who live a few short decades. Such an imbalance could lead to ethical nightmares, a permanent ruling class, entrenched hierarchies, and perhaps even the erosion of democratic ideals. The immortal elite may justify their dominance by claiming superior wisdom. But history shows us that unchecked power often leads to corruption. Thus, one of the deepest ethical concerns is whether immortality would erode equality, trapping the majority of humanity in a perpetual state of disadvantage. Another profound ethical dimension is the value of life itself. Mortality has always been the great equalizer. No matter how powerful, wealthy, or intelligent a person is, death eventually humbles everyone. But if immortality removes this horizon, would the very meaning of life shift? Some philosophers argue that mortality is what gives urgency to moral choices, that knowing our time is limited pushes us to be kinder, braver, and more purposeful. If immortality strips away this urgency, might ethical behavior diminish rather than grow? Could an immortal being, unbound by time, justify delaying moral action indefinitely, always thinking, "I can fix it tomorrow"? We must also consider the ethics of memory and trauma in a world of immortals. Human beings already carry scars from their past, but those scars fade over decades as memory softens and time creates distance. An immortal, however, would never escape their past. Imagine carrying the weight of every mistake, every guilt, and every failure across centuries. Would immortals become ethically paralyzed, unable to forgive themselves for their accumulated wrongs? Or, conversely, would they become desensitized, trivializing suffering after witnessing it for so long? The ethical balance between compassion and detachment would be extremely delicate. Furthermore, there is the ethical problem of resource distribution. The Earth is already strained by billions of mortal lives consuming its limited resources. What happens if billions suddenly never die? Would immortals ethically be obligated to leave Earth, seeking other planets or star systems, to prevent overpopulation? Or should society regulate reproduction, forcing difficult moral choices about who gets to bring new life into the world? These questions border on the dystopian, but must be faced if immortality is more than fantasy. Even deeper is the question of justice and punishment. In mortal societies, punishments like prison sentences are measured in years or decades. But what does justice look like when a criminal is immortal? Would a life sentence still mean anything? Could an immortal murderer be imprisoned for eternity? That may sound just on the surface, but in practice, condemning someone to infinite suffering. raises its own moral horrors. On the other hand, if immortals are allowed to eventually reintegrate, would their endless lifespan give them infinite chances to harm again? The ethics of punishment become tangled in ways almost impossible to resolve. Another overlooked dimension is the ethical responsibility of immortals toward innovation and progress. If humanity depends on new generations to bring fresh ideas, what happens when a small group of immortals holds on to the reins of power for millennia? Would they stagnate? Society, clinging to old ideas and traditions? Or would they feel compelled to drive humanity forward, becoming guardians of progress? The ethical choice between preserving stability and encouraging change would be magnified. When lifespans stretch into eternity, on a more personal ethical level, immortality forces us to rethink relationships. Friendships, romances, and families are all structured around the reality of limited time. But if one partner is immortal while another is not, can such a relationship ever be ethical? Is it fair for an immortal to love someone who will inevitably die while they remain? Or would the ethical choice be to avoid attachments altogether, sparing oneself and others from inevitable heartbreak? And if immortals choose detachment, what does that say about the human need for connection? Could immortality erode empathy itself, making eternal beings incapable of relating to mortal struggles? Finally, the greatest ethical question may be whether immortality should even be pursued at all. Many philosophers warn of the hubris of defying nature, arguing that the acceptance of death is essential to the human condition. If we strip that away, do we risk losing our humanity altogether? On the other hand, if science grants us the possibility, is it ethical to deny it, especially to those who could use their extended lives to prevent suffering, discover cures, and expand knowledge? In the end, immortality does not simply expand life, it multiplies every ethical question we already face. Justice, equality, responsibility, compassion are magnified under the weight of eternity. Whether we see this as an opportunity or a danger depends not only on our philosophy, but also on our willingness to imagine a future where the line between human and godlike blurs. The ethics of immortality remind us that the question is not only could we, but also should we? And perhaps even more importantly, what kind of beings would we become if we did? When we enter the philosophical realm of immortality, we'll leave behind the practical and social concerns of justice, resources, and inequality, and we begin to wrestle with deeper questions about meaning, identity, and existence itself. Philosophy forces us to ask not simply, what would immortality look like, but rather, what would immortality mean for who we are as human beings? This is where immortality reveals itself, not as a scientific puzzle or a political problem, but as a challenge to the very foundations of human thought. One of the first philosophical issues is the problem of meaning. Many thinkers, from existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre to logicians like Ludwig Wittgenstein, have argued that life gains its urgency and significance precisely because it is finite. Death gives shape to the narrative of existence, a beginning, middle, and end. Without an end, is there still a story? If a life stretches endlessly across centuries, does it retain its drama, or does it flatten into monotony? Here, the paradox of immortality emerges. While humans often fear death, they also rely on it to create meaning. Imagine reading a novel that never ends. At first, you might delight in the endless plot twists, but eventually, the absence of resolution might leave you unsatisfied. In the same way, immortality may rob life of its narrative structure, leaving existence suspended in perpetual continuation without closure. The philosopher Bernard Williams, in his essay, The Macropulos Case, argued exactly this, that immortality, far from being desirable, might actually be intolerable. But is this conclusion inevitable? Perhaps immortality changes the form of meaning rather than erasing it. If a mortal life is like a short poem, An immortal life might be like an infinite symphony, always capable of adding new movements. Never finished, but constantly evolving. This raises the question, does meaning require an ending, or can meaning be found in perpetual becoming? Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher, famously claimed that life is flux, a constant state of change. Immortality could, in theory, provide endless opportunities for reinvention, for new identities, new projects, new loves. The philosophical tension lies in whether such reinvention can truly sustain meaning over infinite time, or whether repetition will eventually erode it. The second philosophical implication of immortality is the problem of identity. Human beings define themselves by memory, continuity, and narrative. We say we are the same person we were 10 years ago because we can remember, at least in fragments, the journey from then to now. But imagine a being who has lived for 1,000 years. Would they still be the same person? Or would the accumulation of countless experiences create something entirely different, an entity no longer recognizable to its original self? Some philosophers argue that immortality would shatter personal identity. After all, if our personalities, beliefs, and memories transform so much even over 70 years, what happens over millennia? Would an immortal person still feel a connection to their childhood self, or would they become a sequence of different selves, each only loosely tied together by memory? Derek Parfit, a modern philosopher, suggested that personal identity is not a matter of being the same substance, but of psychological continuity, memories, intentions, character traits. Yet even Parfit admitted that this continuity can thin out over time. With immortality, the thread of identity might stretch so far that it eventually snaps. If immortality erodes identity, then we must ask, is living forever truly living forever? If you eventually cease to be the you that you recognize, this opens the haunting possibility that immortality might secretly contain its own kind of death, the death of the self as we know it. Perhaps immortality is not the preservation of self, but the transformation into something else, something post-human. Closely connected is the problem of boredom and fulfillment. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche posed the thought experiment of eternal recurrence. Imagine living your exact life over and over again for eternity. Would you embrace it joyfully or recoil in horror? Nietzsche's challenge was meant to test whether one's life is lived authentically. But in the case of literal immortality, the question is altered. How many times can one find joy in repeated experiences before they grow hollow? Eating a favorite meal might bring delight the first 100 times, but after the 10,000th, what remains? Yet some argue that boredom is not inevitable. Creativity, discovery, and love are not finite resources. They expand as humans push boundaries. Perhaps immortality would not lead to despair, but to transcendence, giving humans time to explore not just Earth, but the universe itself, unlocking depths of art, science, and philosophy that are impossible in a mortal span. Immortality, in this optimistic vision, is not a curse, but a liberation from the tyranny of time. Another profound implication is the problem of morality in a timeless existence. If morality often depends on urgency, on the knowledge that harm or good must be addressed quickly, what happens when time becomes infinite? Do moral duties expand without limit? Does an immortal being have the responsibility to end suffering everywhere, given that they have unlimited time to do so? Or does morality itself lose its weight when consequences can always be postponed? This leads to the question of responsibility toward future generations. Mortals often act with the knowledge that their time is limited and that they will pass the torch to their descendants. But an immortal has no such passing point. They remain witnesses to centuries of human progress and suffering. Would immortality impose a duty to shepherd humanity responsibly, to act as custodians rather than mere participants? And if so, How could this responsibility be managed without creating tyranny? Finally, we encounter the metaphysical challenge. Immortality forces us to rethink what it means to exist at all. If existence is defined by change, by the arc from birth to death, then immortality disrupts the essence of existence itself. Does a being who never dies still exist in the same sense as mortals? Or do they cross into a new category altogether, straddling the line between human and divine? Here, philosophy collides with theology, as immortality raises questions once reserved for gods. In the end, the philosophical implications of immortality do not yield easy answers. Instead, they deepen the mystery of what it means to live. Immortality is not simply an extension of time. It is a transformation of meaning, identity, and morality. Whether this transformation is a blessing or a curse depends on whether we believe. Human beings can sustain purpose, selfhood, and ethical responsibility across infinite horizons. When we think about immortality, it is easy to imagine it as a purely physical state, our bodies enduring without decay, our cells renewing endlessly, and our minds persisting in clarity. But beyond the biological and scientific aspects lies a deeper layer of reflection, the philosophical consequences of such existence. Part 1 introduced the broad questions of meaning, identity, and purpose. In Part 2, we must travel further into the intricacies of how living forever reshapes morality, freedom, personal growth, and our perception of truth. Let us begin with morality. In a mortal world, moral decisions are urgent because time is short. Life's finitude forces us to weigh choices with a sense of consequence. If you wrong someone, time runs out to make amends. If you waste years in regret, those years cannot return. Mortality, therefore, sharpens moral awareness. But in an immortal world, what would morality mean? If eternity stretches before us, wrongs could be forgiven eventually, mistakes could be undone centuries later, and redemption might be endless. Does this make morality less important, or infinitely more so? Perhaps with unlimited time, each moral choice expands, echoing across endless centuries, shaping a self that never ends. Next comes freedom and responsibility. Philosophers such as Jean-Paul Sartre argued that human freedom is defined by finitude. We must choose meaning within a life that inevitably ends. But if immortality removes that endpoint, does freedom expand or collapse? On one hand, infinite life could give us infinite chances, every dream possible, every career explored, every mistake survivable. On the other hand, endless time might reduce urgency, creating a paralysis of choice. If you can always begin tomorrow, will you ever truly begin? Immortality could paradoxically make us less free, trapped in an ocean of endless possibility without the anchor of time to drive decisions. We must also examine personal growth and transformation. In mortal life, humans are defined by cycles: childhood, youth, maturity, old age. Each phase shapes who we are, and the end of life gives meaning to the process. In immortality, those cycles might repeat infinitely, or perhaps collapse altogether. Would an immortal being experience stagnation, fatigue, where nothing feels new anymore? Or would immortality open the possibility of infinite self-transformation, where one could become an artist, then a scientist, then a philosopher, then reinvent again after centuries? In this sense, immortality could mean not one life, but countless lives contained within a single consciousness. Another question arises: truth and perspective. Mortality binds us to a certain urgency in seeking truth. We want to know, within our brief span, what matters most. But if we had eternity, would truth lose meaning? If answers are always available, if one can explore every perspective across endless time, does the concept of ultimate truth fade into the horizon? Perhaps immortality would lead to relativism, where truth is not fixed but endlessly shifting, like an infinite mirror, reflecting itself. Or perhaps the eternal mind, through infinite contemplation, could come closer to what philosophers have always sought: absolute truth, free from the distortions of urgency and fear. Then there's the problem of boredom, famously discussed by philosophers like Bernard Williams. He argued that immortality would ultimately be intolerable, not because of physical suffering, but because of existential monotony. Without death, novelty loses its edge. Would music sound the same after 10,000 years? Would joy retain its sweetness after endless repetition? Boredom might erode meaning itself. Yet others disagree, suggesting that creativity, curiosity, and love could sustain even the eternal mind. After all, the universe itself is vast, filled with mysteries that even eternity may not exhaust. Finally, let us consider the role of death in giving life its shape. Martin Heidegger believed that death is not simply an end, but the defining horizon of existence, the condition that makes human life authentically human. Without death, we might lose that horizon. Life might become indefinite, like a novel with no conclusion, its meaning forever deferred. But perhaps immortality would allow us to construct new horizons, self-imposed cycles, chosen endings, voluntary pauses. In this way, immortality would not erase the need for limits, would merely shift the responsibility of creating them from nature to ourselves. In reflecting on all these philosophical dimensions, one truth becomes clear: immortality is not simply about living longer. It is about reshaping the very fabric of human existence, our values, our choices, our relationships with truth, and even our sense of self. With eternity before us, humanity might become something fundamentally different, not merely in body, but in spirit. As we enter the final reflections on the philosophical implications of immortality, it becomes clear that living forever is not simply a physical or technological phenomenon. It is a profound reshaping of existence itself. We have already explored questions of meaning, identity, morality, and freedom. In this final part, we consider the more subtle and nuanced consequences: consciousness, human relationships, emotional depth, existential responsibility, and the potential transformation of society and culture. First, let us examine consciousness over infinite time. The human mind is designed to operate within a finite temporal framework. Memories, emotions, and experiences are integrated over years, creating a narrative of self. Immortality stretches this framework into the unimaginable. Would consciousness maintain its coherence over centuries, millennia, or longer? Philosophers have long debated whether a mind can endure indefinitely without fragmenting. The accumulation of endless memories could enrich identity or, paradoxically, dilute it. The mind may evolve into a complex network of selves, each carrying fragments of past experiences, creating a continuous yet ever-shifting tapestry of consciousness. The question arises: would such a consciousness still feel human, or would it transcend into a new form of existence altogether? Next, consider human relationships. Mortality gives relationships urgency and intensity. Knowing that our time is limited compels us to cherish connections, express love, and forgive transgressions. Immortality could radically alter this dynamic. Friendships, romances, and familial bonds might stretch across centuries. This longevity could allow unparalleled understanding and depth, but it could also foster detachment. The loss of urgency might reduce emotional resonance, making bonds less poignant or meaningful. Alternatively, immortality could enable us to cultivate empathy and patience to levels never achievable in mortal spans. Relationships might become lifelong laboratories of emotional growth, testing the limits of compassion, tolerance, and love. A related concern is emotional resilience. Mortality ensures that pain, grief, and joy have a concentrated intensity. Immortality spreads these experiences across endless time. Would suffering dull with repetition? would joy lose its sharpness? Some philosophers argue that human emotions require boundaries to retain significance. Yet immortality also provides the opportunity for emotional mastery. With infinite time, humans could cultivate wisdom, patience, and serenity far beyond current limits. Perhaps immortality is not an end to feeling, but a transformation in how we experience and interpret emotions. Another profound implication is existential responsibility. If one lives forever, one bears an enduring obligation to oneself, others, and the universe. Mortals pass the torch to new generations, but immortals remain, bearing witness to centuries of history, progress, and failure. This presence creates an ethical weight. How should one act when one's actions can reverberate for centuries? Immortality may compel a heightened sense of stewardship, accountability, and moral vigilance. The eternal human is both observer and participant. Tasked with navigating the ethical complexities of unbounded time, we must also consider societal and cultural transformations. Immortality would radically alter the development of civilizations. If humans cease to die, generations would overlap indefinitely, potentially slowing cultural change but also enabling extraordinary cumulative knowledge. Scientific and artistic progress could reach unprecedented heights as individuals contribute over centuries without interruption. But the challenge lies in avoiding stagnation. The immortal mind might consolidate power or influence, creating hierarchies that endure indefinitely. Society would need mechanisms to ensure fairness, creativity, and diversity in a world where death no longer regulates leadership, innovation, or succession. Finally, there is the metaphysical dimension. Immortality challenges our very conception of existence. Human life is currently framed by beginnings and endings. Immortality removes that frame. Philosophers like Heidegger and Levinas argued that human authenticity arises from acknowledging mortality. Without death, humans may be forced to construct new existential frameworks, new purposes, and self-imposed horizons. Immortality may compel humanity to find meaning not in endpoints, but in continuous creation, discovery, and reflection. In conclusion, the philosophical implications of immortality are profound and paradoxical. Living forever reshapes consciousness, emotions, morality, relationships, and society itself. It challenges our assumptions about identity, freedom, and the nature of existence. Immortality is not merely an extension of life, it is a transformation of the human condition. Whether this transformation is a blessing or a burden depends on our capacity to find meaning, maintain emotional depth, and navigate ethical responsibility in a life without end. In exploring these questions, we are forced to confront the deepest truths of what it means to be human and to imagine what it might mean to transcend the human entirely. Immortality, while often imagined as a gift or ultimate freedom, brings with it profound psychological challenges that are both subtle and transformative. To understand the impact of living forever on the human mind, we must first examine the foundational role that time plays in shaping consciousness. Human psychology is intrinsically temporal. Our memories, emotions, goals, and motivations are structured around the knowledge that our time is limited. The mere awareness of mortality drives urgency, creativity, emotional intensity, and social connection. Immortality radically disrupts this temporal framework, forcing the mind into uncharted psychological territory. One of the first psychological consequences is memory saturation. The human brain is capable of remarkable memory retention, but it is also optimized for a finite lifespan. Imagine a mind that continuously accumulates centuries of experiences. Over time, the sheer volume of memories could overwhelm cognitive capacity, leading to selective forgetting, distortion, or even detachment from certain experiences. Philosophers and neuroscientists alike have speculated that an immortal mind would need to develop novel cognitive strategies to manage infinite information. Perhaps memories would no longer be stored sequentially, but as vast interconnected networks, constantly reorganizing to maintain coherence. Closely tied to memory is the challenge of emotional resilience. Mortality intensifies the value of emotions. The knowledge that joy, love, and even grief are temporary gives each feeling heightened significance. In contrast, immortality spreads emotional experiences across endless time. Repeated exposure to grief, loss, or disappointment could diminish sensitivity, potentially leading to emotional blunting. Conversely, joy and wonder might also lose. Their intensity, if novelty, is constantly experienced, but never fully fades. Yet some psychologists argue that an immortal mind could cultivate unprecedented emotional mastery. With centuries of practice, humans could achieve profound serenity, emotional balance, and wisdom far beyond what mortal lifespans allow. Another critical aspect is boredom and novelty seeking. Humans are driven by curiosity, challenge, and the pursuit of new experiences. Finite life ensures that novelty is precious and each discovery feels significant. In an immortal existence, boredom becomes a looming psychological threat. How does one sustain motivation when every challenge can be revisited endlessly? Some theorists suggest that immortality would compel the mind to constantly innovate, explore, and reinterpret experiences. Intellectual pursuits, creative endeavors, and exploration of the cosmos could become infinite. But they would require an unprecedented degree of psychological flexibility and self-discipline. The impact on identity and personal continuity is equally profound. Human identity is built through temporal narratives, a sequence of events, decisions, and relationships that define who we are. Immortality could expand this narrative indefinitely, creating a complex, multi-layered self that evolves over centuries. But there is a risk. The accumulation of experiences may fragment the sense of self. One might feel increasingly distant from earlier versions of identity, questioning whether continuity of consciousness is truly sufficient to maintain a coherent self. Philosophers like Derek Parfit have suggested that identity may not rely on strict continuity, but on psychological connectedness. Yet even connectedness may weaken over centuries, challenging the very definition of who we are. Social and relational dynamics are also dramatically affected. In a world where humans live indefinitely, friendships, romantic partnerships, and family bonds must adapt to unending lifespans. Mortality naturally limits relationships, encouraging depth, urgency, and prioritization. Immortality could either deepen relationships, allowing unmatched understanding and loyalty, or create detachment, as emotional bonds are diluted over centuries. The social psyche must develop mechanisms to sustain intimacy, empathy, and compassion despite temporal expansiveness. Finally, motivation itself faces a unique challenge. Human ambition is driven by deadlines, finite opportunities, and the awareness that choices matter because time is scarce. In immortality, traditional motivators lose potency. One might endlessly postpone decisions, indefinitely defer projects, or succumb to existential inertia. To thrive psychologically, immortals would need new motivational frameworks, possibly creating self-imposed goals, cycles, or challenges to preserve purpose. Without such structures, infinite time could paradoxically lead to stagnation, apathy, or existential despair. Continuing from the first part, we must delve deeper into how immortality would reshape the human mind and society on a psychological level. Beyond memory, emotion, and motivation, living indefinitely presents challenges in adapting to the passage of time, maintaining identity, nurturing social bonds, and sustaining novelty and purpose. Each of these factors is essential to understanding the true impact of immortality on the psyche. Psychological adaptation is the first crucial topic. Humans are inherently adaptable creatures, capable of adjusting to changes in environment, culture, and circumstance. Mortality imposes natural limits, ensuring that adaptation occurs in cycles tied to life stages. Immortality, however, removes these natural markers. How does a mind accustomed to cycles of birth, growth, and death adapt to an unending continuum? One possibility is that the immortal mind develops an extended form of resilience, recalibrating its expectations, emotions, and perceptions to accommodate infinite change. This may involve new mental frameworks, such as compartmentalizing experiences, creating self-imposed milestones, or even periodically redefining one's sense of self to cope with centuries of living. Closely tied to adaptation is the question of identity continuity. As mentioned in Part 1, human identity is a narrative constructed over finite time. Immortality forces a reevaluation. How does a self persist when decades, centuries, or millennia separate experiences? Some psychologists argue that the accumulation of knowledge and memory would expand identity, creating a richer, more multifaceted sense of self. Yet there is also the risk of fragmentation where the earliest version of oneself becomes a distant echo, and the mind must reconcile multiple selves across time. Techniques such as journaling, reflective practices, or even digital memory aids might become essential tools for maintaining cohesion in the immortal mind. Social bonds and relationships present another unique challenge. Mortality naturally imposes boundaries that intensify relationships. Knowing that time is limited encourages empathy, prioritization, and commitment. Immortality removes these constraints, potentially diluting emotional intensity. Friends may drift apart, romantic partnerships may stagnate, and familial ties may become complex across centuries. To counteract this, immortals may cultivate extraordinary patience, tolerance, and commitment. Communities could evolve to sustain deep connections, with social norms emphasizing emotional endurance, continuous empathy, and intergenerational mentorship. Importantly, new forms of social interactions, such as long-term collaborative projects, shared learning endeavors, or perpetual artistic collaborations, could emerge as mechanisms to preserve intimacy and shared purpose. The pursuit of novelty is equally critical. Boredom is a fundamental risk of immortality. In a finite life, novelty is scarce and precious, motivating exploration and discovery. An infinite existence threatens the scarcity that gives experiences meaning. To combat this, immortal minds may continually seek new experiences, intellectual challenges, or creative projects. The universe itself, with its boundless mysteries and potential for exploration, could serve as an endless source of novelty. Yet psychological fatigue is likely inevitable, requiring the development of strategies to maintain engagement, such as cycling through diverse disciplines, reinventing oneself, or deliberately seeking unfamiliar perspectives. Immortals might also cultivate the art of sustained curiosity, learning to derive meaning from subtle variations, abstract thought, and long-term experimentation rather than only overtly novel stimuli. A further consideration is emotional balance and psychological resilience. Immortality exposes humans to an accumulation of grief, loss, and existential dilemmas. Over centuries, the immortal mind must manage profound losses. Friends, colleagues, and even social orders may change or vanish. Without proper strategies, such losses could become psychologically overwhelming. Techniques to foster resilience might include meditation, mindfulness, cognitive restructuring, and deliberate emotional training. Immortals may also develop an ability to compartmentalize pain and joy, alternating between deep engagement and detachment as necessary to sustain mental health across time. Finally, purpose and goal setting are central to psychological well-being. In immortal life, goals are urgent because time is limited. Immortality removes this urgency, demanding self-created structures to maintain motivation and meaning. Immortal humans might design personal epic centuries-long projects or challenges to provide focus. They could cultivate evolving ambitions, alternating between scientific, artistic, philosophical, and experiential objectives to avoid stagnation. The capacity for flexible goal setting would likely determine which immortals thrive psychologically and which succumb to existential boredom or despair. In summary, the psychological impact of immortality is profound and multifaceted. Adaptation, identity maintenance, social connection, emotional resilience, novelty seeking, and purpose creation become essential skills for surviving and thriving in an unending life. These factors illustrate that immortality is not merely a physical state, it is a lifelong now, and indeed, endless exercise in cognitive, emotional, and social mastery. The mind must continuously evolve to navigate the unique challenges of eternity, redefining what it means to be human, and perhaps what it means to exist at all. As we conclude our exploration of the psychological impact of immortality, it is crucial to examine the final layers of complexity that define living forever. Beyond memory, emotional resilience, identity, and social bonds, immortality challenges the very architecture of the human mind and spirit. The eternal individual must confront not only cognitive and emotional hurdles, but also the profound consequences of existing in a temporal vacuum, where centuries stretch ahead with no inherent endpoint. Spiritual and existential depth becomes a central concern. Mortality has historically provided humans with a framework for meaning. Religion, philosophy, and culture have all been shaped by the knowledge that life is finite. Immortality disrupts these structures. Without death, the ultimate questions of purpose, destiny, and legacy demand new answers. Immortal humans may seek transcendence through meditation, contemplation, or intellectual exploration, attempting to anchor themselves in values that persist across centuries. Existential depth becomes a conscious practice rather than a natural consequence of life's brevity. Individuals may cultivate inner landscapes of meaning that are resilient to the erosion of time, ensuring that life remains purposeful even when no external deadline compels action. The challenge of psychological limits also becomes pronounced. Even the most adaptable mind is subject to fatigue, stress, and cognitive saturation. Over centuries, the accumulation of experience could overwhelm attention, emotional regulation, and decision-making capacity. Strategies to mitigate these risks may include deliberate mental compartmentalization, rhythmical engagement with challenges, and cyclical periods of retreat or reflection. Immortality demands not only endurance, but also mastery of one's inner world, continuous training of the mind to balance stimulation, rest, and introspection. Long-term motivation and goal setting remain vital. Traditional short-term incentives lose their effectiveness when time is infinite. Immortal humans must construct frameworks that provide meaning over centuries. This may involve multi-century projects in science, art, exploration, or philosophy. The ability to set evolving, layered goals ensures sustained engagement, prevents stagnation, and cultivates a sense of accomplishment despite the boundless horizon of time. Immortals may adopt the practice of redefining purpose periodically, maintaining a dynamic and adaptive approach to meaning. Social and cultural ramifications cannot be ignored. Communities of immortal beings would evolve differently from mortal societies. The persistence of individuals across centuries could stabilize knowledge, tradition, and cultural identity, but it might also inhibit rapid innovation or generational turnover. Social structures may become deeply hierarchical, with those who have existed longest accumulating influence and authority. Immortality would require ethical frameworks and governance models designed to ensure fairness, creativity, and adaptability. Over vast spans of time, cultures would need to balance the wisdom of experience with the freshness of ongoing discovery, preventing stagnation while honoring continuity. Psychological isolation and loneliness represent further challenges. Centuries, even the deepest relationships may fracture or evolve beyond recognition. Immortals may witness the rise and fall of civilizations, the disappearance of species, and the transformation of environments. Coping with perpetual change requires emotional fortitude and existential grounding. Practices like meditation, communal rituals, mentorship, and purposeful creation could sustain psychological well-being, enabling immortals to navigate profound solitude without succumbing to despair. Finally, the human mind must confront the paradox of abundance. Immortality offers infinite opportunities for learning, exploration, and self-improvement, yet it simultaneously threatens to erode urgency and intensity. The challenge lies in balancing freedom with discipline, abundance with focus, and endless time with meaningful action. Those who thrive in immortality may become architects of their own psychological and cultural landscapes, continuously shaping themselves and their world in response to the infinite possibilities before them. In conclusion, the psychological impact of immortality is as vast and intricate as the span of time it encompasses. Living forever is not merely a physical state, but a profound cognitive, emotional, and existential transformation. The immortal mind must navigate memory saturation, emotional complexity, identity continuity, social evolution, and the creation of purpose. It must develop strategies for resilience, motivation, and novelty, while cultivating a spiritual or philosophical anchor to sustain meaning. Immortality reshapes not only individual psychology, but also society, culture, and the very nature of human existence. Those who embrace these challenges may achieve unparalleled wisdom and insight, transcending traditional limitations to explore the boundless horizons of thought, emotion, and experience.